Hi everyone, I'd like to welcome you to this TOC podcast and give you some information about upcoming TOC events. We've got a number of terrific webcasts scheduled for the next few weeks. You can register for any one of them at O'Reilly.com/webcasts. Next, TOC Frankfurt is less than 2 months away. The main event is Tuesday, October 11th, and we've added a half-day social media workshop the following Thursday, October 13th. More information and a registration link can be found at tocfrankfurt.com. Finally, it's never too early to start thinking about TOC New York, which takes place February 13th through the 15th. The call for participation is now open, so if you're interested in pitching a session, now's the time to do so. Details and proposal submission links are available at toc.com. Please let me know if you'd like to offer feedback on any of our TOC events. You can reach me by way of email at jwikert@o'reilly.com. Thanks for your ongoing interest in TOC.
Hello everyone, this is Joe Wikert, and I'm General Manager at O'Reilly Media as well as co-chair of our Tools of Change conference. And I'm joined today by Nelson Saba, CEO of Immersion Digital, which is the company that brought the Glo Bible to everybody. And I've been using the Glo Bible app for a week, actually several weeks now on my iPad, and I found it to not only be a terrific resource, but a rich and engaging iPad app as well. And because of my experience with the app, I've asked Nelson if he would be available to do an interview with us for TOC. So he's graciously agreed. So Nelson, welcome to this Tools of Change interview.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
So the Glo Bible app, like I said, is one of the most impressive products I've seen on the iPad. How happy are you with the iPad edition and its overall sales performance and customer feedback on it?
Yeah, the iPad is actually one of our strongest platforms, and frankly, the Glo Bible was designed with that kind of device in mind, the multi-touch slate devices. It was designed back in 2007 when there were no iPads or no multi-touch slate devices, but we knew they were coming, and we also knew that that's what we saw as kind of like the sweet spot for what the Glo Bible was about. The Glo Bible was really about creating a digital alternative to the paper Bible. And a slate is really the ideal platform for to be a catalyst of that transition from paper to digital, with all of the capabilities that it offers. Multi-touch interface is a great thing because it allows you to create what we have actually in our product, which is a natural user interface. It's interesting how the natural user interface is something that actually broadens the age range of people who can use the product. We had people that were in their 60s that normally are very afraid of technology. We actually have postings on Facebook from people who had their 80-something years old mom using the product, because the natural user interface mimics the way you use objects in the real world and makes the software very intuitive. And the multi-touch really allows you to do that. And so the iPad really allows you to create interfaces that are very, very engaging and very user-friendly. And it's amazing the processing power that you have on those devices and how it can really lend to a very powerful product. Our two best-selling platforms are actually the Mac, the PC desktops, but then on mobile, the iPad.
Okay, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think you're absolutely right. I can see where the iPad itself as a device lends itself to the rich user interface I was talking about before.
Absolutely.
So the basic Glo app is free and includes an NIV edition of the Bible with full offline access, and you also offer a premium version for $49.99 with a lot more functionality. Just kind of curious, is the rate of upgrade from free to premium in line with your original projections on the iPad app?
Yeah, actually, that's a very interesting story about our launch. We had the premium upgrade available for PC and Mac, and this $49.99 is a price point consistent with what people are used to pay for, software in desktops. We felt that was not going to work well on iPad devices, and we designed, for that matter, a entry-level product that wasn't ready by the time we had the iPad version ready. So we decided to then launch with the $49.99 price point, pretty sure that it was not going to work. But, at least we would be out there. Well, surprise, on the iPad, we had between 7, 9, 10, even 13% conversion, which was quite surprising. And so we never launched the entry-level version. We just kept the premium version, because what we realized is that on iPad devices, people tend to think a lot more like they think for desktop software in terms of value and what they would be willing to pay for an app, provided that app has the functionality to justify the price point. So that was an interesting surprise for us. That was a good one. This conversion ratios has stayed very, very steady. And we're very, very happy with that.
Yeah, now one of the questions I have along those same lines is, so many publishers out there are struggling with this sort of freemium model of, okay, let's have a free version, let's have an upgrade version that people are going to pay for. And to me it seems like a big issue is you've got to have enough separation of functionality there to cause people to want to go up while still having a free product that's compelling enough for people to download to begin with. Is that a struggle to decide what to put in premium versus what to offer for free?
No, I mean, what I just said is a good example of that. You get very good conversion ratios, so all of a sudden you find yourself in the business of promoting free downloads, which is much, much easier than selling a product.
Yep.
And as I said, conversion ratios are pretty steady. Actually, conversion ratios are a function of platform, country, price point. And for each country and a certain platform, by adjusting the price, you can get good conversion ratios. It's interesting, you know, and once you tune it down to a conversion ratio that you're happy with, and obviously for that you should have multiple in-app upgrades, and different in-app upgrades will resonate more with different platforms. But once you hit a conversion ratio that you like, you can bet that that's going to stay steady. Despite of the volume of downloads. It's interesting that sometimes the volume of downloads is very high, sometimes it's okay. Conversion ratios stay pretty steady.
Okay.
And, yeah, but it varies a lot from platform to platform. For instance, the $49.99 in-app purchase that we have for Glo Premium, it does generate, you know, anywhere between 7 and 13% conversion on iPad, while it's 0.02% on iPhone.
Ah, okay.
So
yeah.
So for the iPhone, we're launching in-app upgrades that are like $199. So such as, for instance, okay, you just get a single Bible translation, or something that is consistent with the mindset of an iPhone user in terms of what he's willing to pay for an upgrade or for an in-app purchase. So that changes from platform to platform, and it does change also from country to country, because this whole notion of in-app upgrades and apps and app stores in many countries is totally new. You talk to people sometimes. We make a point of pushing our business internationally in a big way. We already have a version in Portuguese. We're developing a version in Japanese. We're finishing Chinese. We also have German in the works and starting Spanish. But we see that in each different country, this whole digital technology, in-app upgrades, app stores, is a much earlier stage than it is in the US. So that's why it's also a function of the country. So platform, country, and price point. Once you tune the price point to a certain platform and country, you get steady upgrades, and then you pretty much get into the business of promoting downloads, which is a tricky thing. Advertising a lot of times doesn't work. It's really tapping into networks of people. In our case, for instance, an influencer or a church leader, if he recommends the app to his audience, that's a big thing. Advertising usually doesn't have big returns. But then essentially what you're in the business of promoting free downloads, and you know what the conversion ratios pretty much will be. You can even project what your bottom line is going to be at the end of the month, provided you hit your download goals.
So that's interesting. I think you said that you're basically adjusting the price in different locations until you get to that conversion rate range that you're looking for, right?
And you also have to adjust the product offering. Yeah, you still have to keep a price consistency across all these offerings in different platforms. That's why I'm saying, we create a $199 and a $299 price point in app upgrades that is really targeting the iPhone audience. And you keep that $49.99 for the premium upgrade on iPad Macs and PCs.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned earlier that obviously besides the iPad, you're on the Mac and the PC, and I assume Android's on the radar as well for you. So is it very difficult to maintain separate versions of the product for each of those platforms?
Well, yeah, that was like we started this with PC. We started with Windows, .NET, WPF, and that was really what made the most sense. Still today, our biggest download is PC desktops, and it's really very, very dominant as a platform. But so we think we started in the right platform, but we then had to create the Mac version. That was our second, and we struggled with the idea of trying to port, trying to use some way of going multi-platform with some code base that would run on both. But after a lot of considerations, we decided to go native. In other words, we have a totally separate body of code for macOS. And we leverage that for iOS. 80% of it is common to iOS and macOS platforms. And the iOS obviously serves the iPad and the iPhone. But they are two totally different bodies of code, two totally different development teams. And that does become quite a challenge. But there is no way around that. At least if you really want to take the best out of the platform, such as, for instance, creating a native Mac OS, native iOS platform, a product that really, really uses everything the iPad or the iPhone or the Mac has to offer. So we will continue maintaining these two platforms, but we'll add a third, and we'll stay there with three. We're adding HTML5 with JavaScript.
Okay. Well, you led right into my next question here, because with Amazon's recent launch of the Kindle Cloud Reader, I think it's causing a lot of publishers to take a closer look at HTML5. And so do you ultimately see that maybe as a way to consolidate and have just one code base going forward?
Maybe in the future. For now, that's not our plan. For now, our plan is to continue with the PC code base, to continue with the macOS code base, and add a third, which is the HTML5 code base. Depending on how things evolve, we may consider consolidating it all on HTML5. The way we want to use HTML5 is slightly different than what you have seen, for instance, by Amazon and by the Financial Times and some other ones that went in that direction. What we really are doing, we are creating actual, native apps on each one of the platforms. So we will have a native a native Android app that uses web views to integrate this HTML5 JavaScript codes into a native HTML5 app or a native Windows mobile app. And we will also have a web-based version that runs off a browser. But we see the way we will use this technology for Android and for Windows Mobile is by creating native apps using web views instead of running off a browser. And the browser version will be more of an additional convenience, but not our primary platform.
Okay. Makes sense. So how much cross-platform use do you see? I mean, are there a lot of people that have it on the iPad that also use Glo on their Mac or on a PC?
Yes, and I actually checked what the number of people, and today is about 20% of our users, they have more than one device. They have either a combinations of iPhone, iPad, or sometimes they have three devices. We have a limit of actually up to 5 devices that you can have, and you manage which ones you activated. And particularly for our case, for the Bible, that is a big convenience that you give to the user, because it gives him the impression that he's having access to his personal Bible, no matter where he is, through whichever device he has access to. And his personal Bible, meaning with his highlights, with his notes, with his reading plans, because we since we're cloud-based, we synchronize all of these devices, and then as a matter of which device you access, you have everything that you did. Actually, today is a good example. This weekend I was in the Silicon Valley. Actually I went to Menlo Park in a church over there, and I was with my iPad. I entered a few notes there, and today we have a morning prayer here in the company, and today I did the devotion, and I opened my Mac, and I went to the journal of my Mac, and I had there all the notes I entered in my iPad. And that was great, because frankly, I didn't remember what the passage was anymore. So I couldn't even find that on my iPad. But when I went to the journal on my Mac and I found them there, that was very convenient. And it does give you that sense that your personal Bible, everything that made it yours, your notes, your journals, your reading plans, your highlights, bookmarks, you can access through whichever device you have. That's a very convenient thing.
Yeah, I think I agree. That's huge. I find that just with my own iPhone and iPad, being able to synchronize different apps and settings and things that I'll take notes on and so forth. So I can see where that would be huge within the Glo Bible app as well. So shifting gears to community for a second here, a lot of publishers are interested in trying to figure out how best to engage and allow their readers to engage in community. And I know in Glo you've got this relationship with YouVersion, and I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and how important community is to this product.
Yeah, well, the partnership with YouVersion really came about for the primary reason was that we really have a similar vision of taking the Bible to this digital space to really reach this digital generations. That when we say digital generations today, I mean anyone who is 4 years old or younger is part of a digital generation. They were born into a digital world, and they prefer digital over traditional media. So having the Bible in that format, thinking about the typical Christian or the typical Bible reader, is really the vision that we have, is the vision that YouVersion has, which is different than some of the other folks who are in this digital Bible space and are more geared towards the scholar, the seminary student, the pastor, the more like professional use of Scripture. So because we see really this notion of really serving this audience that connects better with digital, we decided to integrate our apps and make it in such a way that you could choose to use YouVersion on the iPhone and have Glo on the iPad or on your Mac, and it will interoperate. Today, synchronizing notes, and as we progress with this integration, pretty much everything that you could do to personalize your Bible, you'll be able to choose on which platform to do, and they will be kept synchronized. I think this is something that will be a trend in terms of other Bible apps doing the same. Absolutely don't mind on that, but this was a tremendous help for us because YouVersion has been around much longer than us. We are in the hundreds of thousands of users. They are in the tens of millions of users. They have over 20 million users. So by having them message our integration to their audience was a gigantic push in downloads for us, which was great. But the primary motivation was really the integration of the two platforms to give our users the option to choose which one they prefer. And both of us also see the social media as very, very central to the use of our app, or how we can really use technology to make our app something more engaging, more relevant, more effective in the lives of people. I think one of the primary differences is that the way we are approaching social media is what we kind of call social media with a purpose. It's not just about sharing, but it's sharing with a purpose. And that purpose really comes from how the church is organized. Churches are groups of people, and then within those groups of people, you have small groups of people that gather for Bible studies. And that creates the ideal setting for social integration. So with the purpose of serving those communities that already exists in churches. So you will see in the next releases of Glo a lot of that coming. That really, the way I put it is really, try to serve the church in connecting with their community, and church leaders in connecting with their small groups and having their small groups exchange around the purposes of those small groups or the purposes of the church. So it's kind of like social media with a purpose. That's how we call it. But that's part of what's next actually for our product in the line of really making our product something that helps you make a more effective use of the Bible and make the Bible more relevant for your life.
I love that phrase, social media with a purpose. That is perfect. And it conjures up for me too. When people think about the Bible, they probably think, this is a work that's thousands of years old, and there's no way to do any sort of innovation with it. And obviously, you've proven them wrong with Glo. Just the phenomenal things that you've done so far. And are there opportunities to innovate even further with it down the road? And if so, can you give us any hints to other things we might see? I mean, you mentioned some of the social media aspects. Or anything else?
Yeah, I think the great thing is how really, the Bible is some passages there are 2,000 or 3,000 years old, and they speak to your life today, and there are a few things that are as inspiring as people, for instance, sharing those experiences. And or expressing how they feel through songs and lots of messages out there, devotions that can be taken out of so much that happens all over the church that can be very touching, very inspiring. And I see Glo as a tremendous platform for that, for you to communicate that. And so I think what Glo is great in terms of experiencing the Bible. You can have experience of what you're reading. Sometimes you can go back in time and see recreations of the biblical world as it was, and we try to make those as accurate as possible. So that angle we covered pretty well. There's more to it, but our focus now is really in making the Bible more effective in your life. One of the things we found out is that most people have the Bible as a reference. So it's a book that most people have catching dust somewhere in your house that you go to every once in a while, very rarely. Normally, when when you're facing some challenges in life, that's when you remember about it. And then you kind of like get this book in your hands, and you know there is help there for you. But how do you find it? And even people who read the Bible regularly, they have a hard time. I need hope today. I remember there's a passage in Jeremiah, but what is that passage? And sometimes, even for people who are familiar with the Bible, it's hard to make the Bible be effective and help you when you need. So technology is a great tool for you to create, ways to help that person find what they need when they need and make that more effective in their lives. I'm about to be a parent. So what does the Bible have to say about parenting? And then you go on Glo or Topical Lens and you see, oh wow, there's so much about parenting. There's like hundreds of passages in the Bible. Oh, let me create a reading plan. You select those passages and you say, create a reading plan about parenting. And by the way, I only have 15 minutes a day, so boom, now your reading plan is going to be 2 weeks, because 15 minutes a day, all these passages is going to be 2 weeks. So, all of those things are things that technology allow you to do, and we want to explore that more. We want to really create more tools that help you engage with Scripture, because Scripture will be more effective in terms of helping you. It will be more relevant to your life. So those kind of tools is really our focus. And social media is a big component of it, because a lot of what you do in the context of a church, and a church is a community of people. So that is the line that we're now focusing. And that's what you will see a lot of the new improvements and enhancements on Glo focusing on. Actually, just as a side note, everyone who has Glo today will get all of that. Our philosophy is that what you're paying for is for the content, and the platform is free. So that's why you can download the Glo Live. That's pretty much the entire platform. But then as you buy content, more and more of what the Glo Bible can do is enabled. But that's the primary direction that we're moving this app into, becoming a platform. in a platform that actually, in that context, we are in the process of offering it to Bible publishers to have them publish their Bibles in our platform.
Oh, exciting. Yeah, that's great. And I'll tell you what, again, as a user, I think you've done a terrific job, you and the whole team there, of really delivering on making that platform that people can use in everyday life. So I applaud what you've done, and I very much look forward to the future developments there. So thanks very much, Nelson, for taking the time for this interview. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It was really, really great. Thank you.